Greetings, dear jewelry lovers. Today I will present you stories about unique tiaras of the past that few have heard of. Let's begin with the fascinating story of the Westminster Tiara halo. This fabulous crown of the Duchess of Westminster is irresistible and rich in the events of its history. The huge gems that adorn this tiara have been in the hands of many celebrities. There is a belief that each of these stones holds fateful moments in people's lives, their emotions, the energy of love or hate. I, at least, tend to believe this. And the ancient stones, brought from India itself, are like guardians of ancient legends. Look at this luxurious tiara halo. Doesn't it look more like a Russian kokoshnik than the headdresses of noble Chinese women, as the jewelers suggested? However, in Great Britain insisted that this tiara has a resemblance to Chinese crowns. But the owners of the Westminster Tiara, as they say, know better. According to legend, the central diamond element of the jewelry is linked to scandalous events of the past. The brilliant facets of huge diamonds are as dazzling as ice shards in the Snow Queen's domain. The history of this diamond began long before our days, back in 1786, when the Indian ruler Asaf Jah II decided to impress the English King George III with an incredible gift, the purest diamond weighing 101 carats. It was truly a royal offering. The generous ruler asked the Governor-General of India, Warren Hastings, to give this brilliant stone to George III himself. At the time, Hastings was not particularly reputable in England and was awaiting trial. And unfortunately, he handed the monarch an Indian diamond without proper mention of its true source. Naturally, this raised suspicions that the Governor-General was trying to bribe the monarch to avoid justice. Thus began the real scandal. The largest diamonds to the left and right of the center stone, which attracted attention with its beauty, were part of the collection of the British monarch's wife, Queen Charlotte. A nabob from the Indian Principality of Arcot decided to honor Her Majesty with unique gifts, and so these diamonds were named Arcot. After the death of the royal couple, the gems ended up in the arsenal of the court jewelry company Rundell and Bridge. However, in 1843, this jewelry house ceased its activities and announced the sale of its precious property. At the same time, the first Marquis of Westminster, in search of a gift in honor of the birthday of his beloved wife, discovered amazing jewels, the beauty of which surpassed all his previous impressions. The Hastings diamond and the famous Arcots had mesmerized the mind and eye of this high-ranking gentleman. He generously gave £10,000 for these royal beauties. Over the years, these diamond masterpieces never left the Grosvenor family. However, the story of the tiara itself began much later, in 1930, when the Duke of Westminster decided to give diamonds a new purpose. He ordered jewelers to create a unique crown for his beautiful wife, Duchess Loelia. The tiara was meant to be associated with China, but Slavic motifs can also be seen in it. This diamond crown, reminiscent of a royal crown in its luxury and beauty, included not only 3 historic diamonds, but also a crystal scattering of 1,400 smaller stones. As light fell on the smooth facets of these marvelous drops, a fiery halo seemed to light up around the head of the ravishing woman. It should also be noted that the Duke of Westminster was a man of abundant heart. He gave the tiara to his 3rd wife, but his 4th wife, Duchess Anne, was the one who brought this unique tiara to life. She even adorned herself with it at the wedding of Elizabeth II in 1953. Modest but exquisite earrings, brooch and diamond necklace, together with the Westminster Tiara, made a magnificent piece of jewelry. In 1959, Duke William Grosvenor ran into financial problems as he was unable to pay the inheritance taxes on the family legacy, which included the tiara halo. He had to put the jewelry up for auction. Despite the fact that there were many who wanted to buy this crown, jeweler Harry Winston, known for his wealth, won the race for this rare diamond composition. The amount he paid exceeded all expectations, £110,000. However, the crown itself did not remain unchanged. The 3 largest diamonds were taken out of the tiara and reshaped and sold separately. And where do we find the Arcot first diamond? It became the pendant for a magnificent necklace by Van Cleef and Arpels. However, the story of the tiara was not yet over. Winston decided to replace the diamonds with sky blue turquoise. This crown was purchased by an American social activist and Chicago resident, Rose Movius Palmer, However, that was not the end of it. The tiara had been redesigned again. Turquoise was replaced by more modest diamonds. For more stones were added to the top, and the pattern in the center of the tiara was changed. This exquisite pattern, consisting of many sparkling sparks, gave the crown a new splendor and gave it a second life. Next on the list of amazing tiaras is the Connaught Tiara, an exquisite diamond jewelry piece from the royal collection of Sweden. It is one of the most prominent treasures in the treasury of the Swedish royal family, and can often be seen on titled ladies. It is therefore incumbent upon us to review the history of this stunning piece of jewelry. The tiara arrived in Sweden with Princess Margaret of Connaught in 1905. Margaret was the niece of King Edward VII of England, and she and her sister were considered among the most attractive brides in Europe at the time. Therefore, it was not difficult to arrange favorable marriages for them. Margaret married Gustav Adolf, the future King of Sweden, at that time Duke of Skane. However, the main thing is that the young people were sincerely in love with each other, and their marriage was the result of pure feelings, not strategy. The tiara was a wedding gift for Marguerite from her parents. Perhaps that is why it has such a delicate and glowing warmth, as Margaret was happy on her wedding day in the chapel of Windsor Castle. After her wedding, she took the jewel to Sweden, and the tiara has never been left behind as it has been worn by women in every generation of the royal family. One famous portrait of Margaret of Connaught, taken shortly after the wedding, shows the princess wearing the Connaught tiara on her head, as well as another tiara, the Khedive tiara, which adorns the bodice of her dress. Although Margaret of Connaught did not wear this gorgeous tiara at her wedding reception, her example was followed by many other brides from the Bernadotte dynasty, such as Princess Christina in 1974. The Connaught tiara was especially worn by Princess Sibylla. The jewel became so associated with her that it was even given the name Sibylla's tiara. For example, it could be seen on the princess in 1948 at the Nobel Prize presentation. After Sibylla, the tiara passed to her son, King Carl XVI Gustav, and for many years it was actively worn by his wife, Sylvia Sommerlath. In 1976, she was pictured with it in her hair at a performance at the Royal Opera House on the eve of her wedding. Sylvia's daughters are also not averse to wearing the precious tiara. Madeleine wears it regularly, albeit as a necklace. The diamond drops are removable and can be used as pendants. But at the wedding of her sister, Princess Victoria, Madeleine wore a jewel in the form of a tiara. And the photo shows that such a move was probably not planned in advance. The base of the tiara was wrapped in black material, which was done for her dark-haired mother. Princess Victoria also doesn't mind appearing in public in a Connaught tiara. In 2015, she wore it at the wedding of her brother Prince Charles Philip and Princess Sophia. Princess Victoria wore the same tiara to attend the Nobel Prize in 2015. Which tiara was your favorite? Would you like to see the second installment of the Unusual Tiara series? Let me know in the comments. That's all for today. See you soon.